And we're back.
Good morning, sir. It's Friday. How are you?
Friday, month end. What month is it? May.
Yeah.
It's going to be June.
Think about that. This has been the fastest 5 months of my life, I think.
It's been 5 months. We're not yet at the mid-year. I did a segment with Paul this week.
Again, there's never enough for you.
Well, because I was like, oh, let's look at the strongest currencies of the year so far. And I was like, it's midway through the year. It's not. We're only 5 months in. So maybe it's going slow for me. It's going fast for you.
When you went to school in Michigan, they used a shortened calendar, so there was less months to memorize. You know, maybe
September, don't need it.
Maybe you had a 10-month calendar, and it just made it easier for you.
Big things from this month. Mission Impossible, new Mission Impossible.
Did you go to the theater and see it?
I went to
did go.
the IMAX.
Oh, you went to the IMAX?
Yeah,
Which one? The one at the museum or where?
No, there's one on the west side by me.
Is there still one in Navy
It was
Pier?
fine. Here's a question for you. Are there any movie theaters that are, like, actually nice?
No, you know, they've gone the whole gamut. They tried where they serve you all the food.
Which sucked.
Because it stinks.
It's awful.
It smells. People are chewing.
This guy's got a cheeseburger next to me.
Right, and it's just like,
and
stop.
You're watching, like, The Pianist or something. It's like, this is not...
No, it's horrible. And it's horrible food.
Yeah.
They tried nice food. The margins were horrible, so they went to... Still, we're going to have... But, like, the burger they give you is, like, freeze-dried. And they heat it up in the microwave. No, it's horrible. There is no... Again...
Well, I only bring it up because, like, the IMAX experience was nice. If you're into movie theater, I have friends who do the movie theater thing.
That much action was...
It was great.
In the IMAX.
And it was also great because there's this... It's, like, not taking up the full screen the whole time. And then, like, the big stunt, his big stunt this time is underwater. He's going to go find this submarine, right? You've seen the Dead Reckoning, the part one of the last movie. You've tried to watch it a bunch of times.
I tried to watch it.
But they're trying to get this key to a submarine.
Oh, the key. Oh, all right. They're still going after the key. I remember.
This one, they've got the key. Now he's going to go take the key to the submarine in, like,
to unlock the thing.
Some sea adjacent to Russia that's, like, frozen, all this whole thing. And so, like, when he takes the big dive down, the screen, like, widens even more. And it's like,
cool.
And then you're just, like, 15 minutes. It's kind of like the skydiving scene where it's just like, all right, you're, like, strapped in now for 5, 10, 15 minutes of just, like, under the ocean.
It's great because it comes through the screen, so it's really immersive.
It was cool. It was cool. But, yeah, I couldn't help but think, I'm not a big movie theater guy. I've gone 2 times this year, which is...
You're such a Mission Impossible. Again, I'd love to go back and pay the last 3 years of when we did shows together, you complaining about, oh, you're such a public person with your action movies.
I was a jerk. I was a jerk.
Yes, you were.
I was a hipster jerk, and now I'm becoming maybe, I guess, like an old loser. I don't know what it is.
Okay. You can't just say you're maturing.
We're together, though.
Yes.
Together we're losers. But I can't help but
I feel much better with that, knowing I've got a fellow loser to work with.
Going to the movie theater, though, feels like you're going to, like, a train station. Like, do you get this where, like, the communal area where you buy the popcorn and everything, like, it's not clean. Like, it's not, like, nice. The carpet is, like, 30 years old. But, like, also to the antithesis of it, it's like, I'm not expecting to walk into, like, Nobu or something, like, oh, look at his beauty. There's a bar over there.
Great selection of candies, good popcorn, not the prefabricated popcorn they have, and just be done with it.
It must be because, like, obviously there's not a lot of natural light in these places that, like, it's just, like, going to be kind of a dingy
they're making
experience.
Money on, I mean, they're charging you $12, $15 for
I don't know if they're making a lot of money, though. Have you seen the AMC stock? It only goes up when, like,
well, no, because they're in the
Reddit
spiral of, again, Michelle and I are like, you know, you've got a decent TV at home. I'll wait 3 months.
Yeah.
There's nothing I need to see today. And I don't want I would enjoy the big screen, but I don't want to smell the teriyaki chicken leg next to me.
This time, there's always, unfortunately, something, and maybe we're just becoming crotchety mature, or sorry, I'll say mature. What are we saying? That we're maturing? There's always something that kind of annoys me in this public setting.
You're growing up.
Okay, I'm growing up.
Yes.
And the guy behind me, the IMAX seats, the normal theater seats now, you can like you have a reclining button,
Which is a nice
and you
feature.
can like pretty much
Yeah.
go flat almost and fall asleep if you want. The IMAX seats, you can only go back.
I've gotten the elbow. Wake up.
You can only go
Snoring.
back a little bit.
Right.
In the
'Cause
IMAX
it's a
seats.
Can't. It's on hard can't. Yeah.
And the guy behind us just like kept going like back and forth for some reason, or something was happening. And so like in the quiet parts, you would just hear like a creak, like back and forth. And I was just like,
See, you're
what the
right.
heck is going on?
That's such a small thing, but I agree with you. It's
Takes
almost
you
like
out of
we
the
go
movie.
in there with an agenda of what's going to make this annoying, or the guy who in the IMAX puts his feet on the chair next to you,
Awful.
because he's trying to stretch out because they
Yeah.
don't recline.
Oh,
And it's
gosh.
like,
Don't get me
your
started
frickin-
on
go back to
tall
your-
people.
Go back to your barn and Yeah.
Go back to your barn. Dude, we were watching the Oklahoma City, Callie, my girlfriend, and
here it comes.
nothing.
Yes, come on.
Girlfriend plus. Let's just say. Let's
Oh,
say
come on. I'm playing.
a different time. Different time. She's from Oklahoma. Oklahoma City's playing, and they do like these fun. You've seen on the NFL where like it'll be like, oh, so and so, he's from like San Diego, and so they do like a fun animation of like, oh, here he is with like a surfboard or something. In the Oklahoma, it's like, oh, Oklahoma City, they're having this historic season, and they throw up all these stats like in a barn, and like, with, like
She get all pissed off.
so mad. She like, I was like, this is pretty
She was
problematic.
seething.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, all right, I could see, but I was like, this is what people in big cities think is going on in
is that
Oklahoma. I'm gonna be on. It's this and that big. What is it? The swirly thing that like sucks up all the twisters.
Oh,
Is that it?
tornadoes?
Tornadoes, twisters.
Yeah, twisters.
Is that the
slang
movie?
for tornado?
But yeah, so media mixed bag. I don't know what this year so far. What's been your highlight? What's going on? It's not Mission Impossible.
Oh, no, I don't. It's been bereft, actually, of
Bereft.
media stuff, of good movies and stuff. There hasn't been a lot. No James Bond movie.
Yeah.
No Kingsman. What was the last thing I saw? Do you know what is good is this Mobland thing that's on with Tom. I've become a huge
watched
fan
it.
of this Tom Hardy.
The show is weird at
Oh,
times.
I got to put on the closed captioning.
the kid.
I can't understand what
Why is that? You can't understand who?
Pierce Brosnan.
Because he's. This is your anti-Irish rhetoric coming out once again.
No, again, he is acted. The character has a heavy Irish brogue. Now, again, it's not anti-Irish. I mean, people from Beverly, again, only use one syllable words, so that sometimes is hard for me
That's
to understand.
because the
That's a
drink-
function of the
No,
lead
I'm
water,
joking.
right? It's done, and the
Oh, the water. I was
the
going to say
chromosomal damage done
the
to
Guinness
you,
or the Coors.
Yeah.
But the water.
But he's good, and it's like now I'm going back.
He's unreal.
I'm going back and watching, like, there's some series he was in. I forget what it's called, but it was done like 7 years ago, and now they're reshooting another season of it. And Michelle's like, yeah, we watched that.
Oh man, what is that show? Peaky Blinders?
No, but he was in that too.
My dad will not. He will talk to you every day of the week about Peaky Blinders and how great Tom Hardy is and all the people. And now that I've watched this Mobland too, and I'm like, who is this Tom Hardy guy? Like
Yeah.
he's unreal, absolutely
Yeah,
unbelievable.
he would. But there was some series, and Michelle's like,
I'll
we
just look it up.
we watched that, and I was like, well, that's really troubling. The fact that I don't even remember us watching that. It was a TV series of some kind.
Gosh, this is just too much information. Taboo, Predators.
Taboo.
I've never heard of this Taboo
Yeah.
before. He's been in a
It's
lot
series,
of stuff.
I think. BBC drama. Yeah.
So you're fully sucked into the Paramount Plus algorithm, is what you're saying? Because they're pumping out those what is it, Yellowstone, and then like it's Yellowstone, but it's 1920
But
or whatever.
I get things like Mobland on one of the cross sells of the channels I subscribe, but for Yellowstone, you have to subscribe to Paramount Plus, which I refuse to do.
Mobland is on Paramount. Oh, so you're getting, the streaming thing. We're gonna look back at this.
Someone's got to Paramount has a partnership with either Showtime or HBO. I don't know what
it's
it
the most
is,
confusing thing
but
on the planet.
I do know that I pay way too much for cable.
It's-
I just did the comparison of I got my bill and I'm like, this is insane.
I hope we look back at this in like 5 to 10 years.
And I went to put in, and you know, they don't let you like look at what current rates are. But if you go incognito and you put in a close house address,
Sure.
I'm looking at, I could get the same services for about $130 less.
It's ridiculous. You don't know what you're paying for. Like, you accidentally started paying $2.99 a month for like something.
And Glenn is giving me, you can watch local channels on YouTube. Just get YouTube. And I'm like, all right, Michelle is not going to.
But the YouTube TV. But then if you do get the YouTube TV, which I have, it's like now you're paying $80 a month. And it's like,
are?
Yeah, like
well,
it's like
no way.
So you're already
it.
back to cable at that point.
Michelle's comfortable with switching between the modes and the apps, so I'm not.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, streaming we thought was gonna make our lives easier. It didn't. But why don't you make our trading lives easier heading into the weekend?
Jump over the platform.
It's month end.
It's a quiet start. Month end, quiet start. They ran equities up yesterday.
And then they took them down.
The court, and then they took them all the way down. U.S. interest rates softened a little bit towards the end of the month, which were pretty precipitously. I say that being short bonds. So
now you're short. You're short bonds now.
Yeah, I was leaning on. I sold.
How did you get short so quickly?
Because I turned myself around. I thought back up in the middle to high 112s, they were going to take another run below 1.
Okay.
But trading close to 113 now, they're making that decision tough.
Going into month, you are not very.
I don't like to.
Conspiracy theory kind of guy, but like you do love the month end like
flow stuff.
Something's moving this direction, and like it's 10 o'clock or whatever.
I don't like the fact that I'm sitting on this stuff going into that because they're going to squeeze to the upside. It's an unreasonable squeeze, but I have horrible trade location right now.
Yeah.
So I've got to make a decision whether I peel them off and start over.
With Forex markets, remind me when the month end flows tend to happen Central Time.
And again, we'll go through just the 3-minute top show. So U.S. is huge. London is still the largest hub for FX, cash FX trading. London day end is 10 o'clock our time in Chicago. So between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock a.m. Chicago time, you will see, sometimes you will, sometimes you won't, chunky one-way moves in FX products, 30, 40 pips. Large funds raise money. They've done so and they have and within that, your document you give to investors says, this is my methodology. Not, I buy euros at, when I think they're cheap or rich, but I have this methodology and I execute at this period of time. Mm-hmm. Now, if you change that period of time, you have to notify your investors or repaper them. So everyone tends to stick towards methodology. That's why, like, you'll see on the end of the month, gold have these kind of wild moves at 12:30 in the afternoon. It's like, what the frick is 12:30? That gold closes at 4 o'clock. Old gold, when it was pit traded, closed at 12.
Old gold. Is that like Ethereum Classic?
When it was floor traded, closed at 12:30.
Gotcha.
So that's why you see these chunky moves at 12:25 to 12:35 some days, is because these funds are compelled to act. If they don't, they're not meeting their fiduciary obligations. And their choice was to either say, well, we're going to do it at 4 o'clock, whatever, and then they've got to notify. Nobody wants to repaper a customer. You repaper a customer, you're giving them an opportunity to rethink about their investment.
If you're fiduciary and you're repapering.
No, you don't want to talk to them at all. You just want their money to stay where it is. So going back to FX, between 10 and 11 o'clock is when we look at this. And this is when we can see some outsized movement. It's an interesting. Now, you look for it and you watch it. You don't try to chase it. I usually don't try to chase it. What I like to do is watch to see if we get a spurt at 10. 10:30, we tend to see another spurt, then 11, the final. And if we get to a level, if we get to 135.40 here in sterling, between 9 and 11, I am going to make the supposition this is price insensitive month-end flows. What does that mean? They don't care. They just have to do the business. Market will take it, and chances are they mark it back down. So I will sell the 135.30s, the 135.40s, and usually you'll get a little bit of pullback. and sometimes you'll get some normalization Sunday night. Now, on the other side of that, if the market is 60 pips higher and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, every rocket scientist like me that's leaning against this, and also the dealers who are holding these positions are like, all right, I'm not able to mark these down. So then it becomes a game of chicken. Who's going to turn first?
Sure.
And you can see this isn't always gold. You have to realize this is I talk about trades with short shelf life. This is a very short shelf life. If it doesn't start to pay you in 2 hours, you need to think about why you got into this, and it was purely on price and sensitive flows. You and the other guys are now not holding the higher cards on this. Move on. Get out, move on.
And it's worth noting the flip side of that coin because obviously there is no arbitrage in these markets.
No,
there is risk to everything like this. And there's been plenty of occurrences where you've gotten the 50-point rally, you've sold sterling here,
and I bought them 80 points higher.
And then
you
bought them higher because it's 2 hours later, and you're like, I don't want, especially in an environment like this, I'm not taking this isn't a bet against tariff volatility or something like that, and I'm not taking the tariff volatility over the weekend for what was a month-end Friday afternoon trade, and now it's Sunday night, and I'm like, oh man, we're 136 bid, and I for some reason have these shorts from what was a nice day trade on Friday.
Right, and never lose sight of, before you put on the trade, you have an idea of what you want to do. Now, if I think sterling is rich, holding on to those is a different thing. If I'm indifferent to sterling and I'm just looking at this kind of blip in market activity, if I hold on to these past the end of the day and they haven't paid me, my idea, I'm then saying my idea has changed. But my idea hasn't changed.
Yeah.
My idea was to take the 30 pips or 35 pips I can get on this and be done by noon.
Well, I love that. That's the month-end potential trade there. You can check out some of these currency moves around 10 to 11 Central, so that would be 11 to noon Eastern time. I don't know where these people live.
You know what? Sometimes you'll see them play through. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll see it in Aussie, in Canada, and you won't see it in Euro and Yen.
Well, I was going to say, I would love it to be in Aussie or Canada or Kiwi, but man, these commodity currencies, it's I don't know why I'm rooting for them to be more interesting, but it continues to be. I mean, I just pulled up that daily chart, and you had sterling take a run at 136 at the end of last week, and even hang in there the start of this week, give back a bunch of ground, but also a big bounce. The range in euro dollar.
That's good market structure, though.
For sure.
A healthy pullback.
For sure.
Without a collapse into the middle of the range. There's nothing wrong with that. Is it rich? Yeah. But from a structure standpoint, be mindful of, shorts.
Well, check out the 15-minute chart here on euro dollar, because this is a hell of a range here this week. Did it break through those highs of 114? No. Is it collapsing down to, 105, 102? No, but I mean, this is a 200-point range back and forth. And just as recently as last night, this morning, they tried to get this thing back up to 114, couldn't do it, back off 60, 70 points here as we enter the U.S. session. Man, this is some good trading out of these majors against the dollar, even though it's not a headline of everybody wants the headline of the dollar's collapsing or the euro's going to dust or whatever this stuff is. It's just a good range here at the highs.
Absolutely. For practical trade, again, if you're sitting on long term, if you sold the 109s, 110s, and you had the blip down to 107, you covered some of them, then you reloaded up at 109 and 110. Looking for the 108 again, I think that's a difficult proposition.
It's going to be tough.
Right now, 112 is cheap. I'm willing, again, we were talking 104 was cheap 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more willing to accept what the market is giving me right now, and it's showing there were buyers out there at 112.
Mm-hmm.
This sets up really nicely for if you don't have inventory at bad levels, to be mindful that challenging those 112s or the 115s are going to be a little bit of a little bit more of a challenge here. So the range sets up really nicely for some back and forth today. And so whether it be PCE or whatever, we get some movement, it's favorable opportunity here.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up, we do have some data here to close out the month, and actually plenty of it across the board. We have some German inflation rates here in a couple of minutes, but more importantly, you have the U.S. data coming in about 30 to 40 minutes, and that'll be U.S. inflation, but also a handful of
Canadian GDP,
other U.S. numbers
by the market.
And Canadian GDP here. Right. And you might say 9 years out of 10, Canadian data doesn't, and I don't mean this in a mean way to any Canadians out there, doesn't matter a lot to U.S. markets or global markets.
No,
but Canadian,
sure
ever since
the Canadian dollar.
But also it seems like ever since Canada was maybe the first major global economy to see the pandemic dip, post-pandemic economic boom, and then post-pandemic economic boom dip, that now everybody has kind of seen at some point in the last 12 to 24 months. Canada was on the forefront of some of that, where remember their unemployment rate started spiking, and they started seeing some real bad economic data. And so I wouldn't be surprised if, that number takes over a few headlines, even though it's the same time as that U.S. Inflationary data, because of course it'll be meaningful for that USD CAD.
And you got some Fed guys talking too.
You have Fed throughout the afternoon. And then, not that we'll be able to trade it necessarily, but you have some Chinese economic data throughout the weekend.
Michigan consumer sentiment, I got to imagine.
This is going to be so dumb. What is this joke going to be?
I just wonder if you find that interesting.
I do. I went to is it University of Michigan still? I know that it was, but now they took the university off of there. They're not even talking about it.
It was. You're right. It used to be U of Mich consumer sentiment.
Maybe is this like an IG tasty thing that we have this? They took the university.
Maybe they just took
Did you have them take this down?
I did not have them take that down. No. I was going to have a small possum representing the chart, though.
Instead of the American flag here,
it was going to be the possum chasing the line.
It's a wolverine, by the way. It's a wolverine.
I know it's a wolverine, but all small animals are sacred in Michigan.
And listen, I was this is going to be the dumbest story ever. I was fishing with my buddy Spencer in Montana.
Hey, guys, this is hard to do because Spencer actually is an inflatable.
He's real. He's a real guy.
Keeping him anchored in the water is hard on a windy day.
He's a real guy. We were fishing, and the guide was a great guide, and he was from the Midwest. And he was, he had gone out west initially to do some kind of wilderness. I don't know. They're tracking animals. I don't know what these people do. And he was like, oh yeah, if you've ever had to track a wolverine, those things are vicious. Those things will really mess you up. He was like, they have one of the widest habitat areas or whatever it is, because animals don't want to come within so close. Wolverines don't want to engage with other wolverines because they will shank each other.
What do they call it? That solo predator thing.
Yeah. There's a fancy term for it, but you better be careful. You don't want the wolverines, the Midwest wolverines. If we let one out in Winnetka, the dogs are gone. Yeah, I'm going to say that.
Luckily,
first.
You have the double major in math and small animal husbandry. You know how to deal with those small animals.
So. I still don't know what husbandry is. The animals
taking care of small animals.
You take care of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So possum, squirrel, ferret, any of those kind of things.
Whatever we do at University of Michigan.
Yeah.
But anyways, plenty of data here, plenty of action. Unfortunately, not so much in the commodity
stay
currencies.
Engaged, see what you get around opportunities. Be mindful the weekend's the weekend, and people can say
you don't
stuff.
want to be button up against the weekend with day trade positions.
I'm finding myself in much better shape, either taking appreciably smaller long-term ideas through the weekend and looking at Sunday night with a fresh light.
Good for you.
So,
All right. Well, let's leave it. It's not going to get better than that.
Yeah.
Let's throw it to Tom, Tony, and Vanetta. Coming up next, we'll be back on Monday morning. Peace.
How we respond to the most difficult situations is ultimately how we learn to build on our successes.
It takes the guesswork out of retail trading.
The market doesn't stop. So why should you? Diversify your portfolio with stocks, options, futures, crypto, and more from tastytrade. Focus on the markets that matter to you. See the odds before you trade using curve analysis, IV rank, and more tools. Get industry insights that help you find your next trade right where you need it. tastytrade. Download today.
Tasty Live's godfather of options, Tom Sosnoff, is grabbing his passport and taking this show international. He'll be joined by IG's Rich McDonald in London and Milan, along with special guests at each stop for an evening of live trading. It's fun, challenging, and moves as fast as the market. Doors open at 5, with trading starting at 6. Come early and have a pint or glass of vino with the boys. It's totally free, but space is limited. Register at tastylive.com/events. Options just got molto interessante.
Feel like your wardrobe is missing something? Like style, purpose, and maybe a dancing dog? Can I pet that dog? The new Tasty Trade and Tasty Live web store is now live. New merch, bold designs. Did we mention all net proceeds go to one tail at a time? Invest in the real bull market, dogs. Go to tastytrade.threadless.com. Grab some gear and help some pups. You get merch, they get a home.
I distinctly remember getting an email from Tasty that Lookback had just been released, and I was doing the most laborious back test on the face of the earth before that. And I did 2 or 3, and I saw how quick it was, and I saw how quick the data was, and basically instantaneously, like, I was hooked. I'd always seen all the stuff on Tasty Live with all the data and all the value I thought that bring, and then it was all of a sudden I could control that and basically make my own segment for myself of what fit. And that democratization technology, I think, drastically changed not only the landscape of what's out there, but drastically changed my ability to learn at such an insane rate. And that's kind of when I developed a little bit more of my own path. I was like, this is the type of trade I exactly want to see, or I'd get some type of inspiration from Tasty Live to look at that. And that's when my consistency went from like 1 to 30, and I haven't had an unprofitable quarter since.
How we respond to the most difficult situations is ultimately how we learn to build on our successes.
It takes the guesswork out of retail trading.
The market doesn't stop. So why should you? Diversify your portfolio with stocks, options, futures, crypto, and more from tastytrade. focus on the markets that matter to you. See the odds before you trade using curve analysis, IV rank, and more tools. Get industry insights that help you find your next trade right where you need it. Tasty Trade. Download today.
Got friends? Get $250. We'll give you a bonus for each qualified person you refer to Tasty Trade. So spread the word and earn rewards. Terms and conditions apply.
Tasty Live's godfather of options, Tom Sosnoff, is grabbing his passport and taking this show international. He'll be joined by IG's Rich McDonald in London and Milan, along with special guests at each stop for an evening of live trading. It's fun, challenging, and moves as fast as the market. Doors open at 5, with trading starting at 6. Come early and have a pint or glass of vino with the boys. It's totally free, but space is limited. Register at tastylive.com/events. Options just got molto interessante.
Feel like your wardrobe is missing something? Like style, purpose, and maybe a dancing dog? Can I pet that dog? The new Tasty Trade and Tasty Live web store is now live. New merch, bold designs. Did we mention all net proceeds go to one tail at a time? Invest in the real bull market, dogs. Go to tastytrade.threadless.com. Grab some gear and help some pups. You get merch.
Tasty Live's godfather of options, Tom Sosnoff, is grabbing his passport and taking this show international. He'll be joined by IG's Rich McDonald in London and Milan, along with special guests at each stop for an evening of live trading. It's fun, challenging, and moves as fast as the market. Doors open at 5, with trading starting at 6. Come early and have a pint or glass of vino with the boys. It's totally free, but space is limited. Register at tastylive.com/events. Options just got molto interessante.
Feel like your wardrobe is missing something? Like style, purpose, and maybe a dancing dog? Can I pet that dog? The new Tasty Trade and Tasty Live web store is now live. New merch, bold designs. Did we mention all net proceeds go to one tail at a time? Invest in the real bull market, dogs. Go to tastytrade.threadless.com. Grab some gear and help some pups. You get merch, they get a home.
Got friends? Get $250. We'll give you a bonus for each qualified person you refer to Tasty Trade. So spread the word and earn rewards. Terms and conditions apply.
Woo! Get tasty, pre-market. Come on, you know it, can you feel it? We got some things to talk about. Pre-market, it's early, but not too early. Come on.